This week in Warzone, we tell you what's in the patch notes and whether or not you should be paying attention. We also jump into our top 5 clips of the week. What is the best? We catch up with BennyCentral and ask him, what exactly should we be running in Verdansk? We ask the question whether or not you should run the Uzi and how you should do it. And we take a look at Boneyard and everything you should know if you're gonna drop there. Hello and welcome to Morezone, everything Call of Duty Warzone and more. I'll be your host, Alan Bryce, and we'll be going through all the different sections, taking you through the wonderful world of Warzone. Make sure you give a follow to our socials for this episode, the Morezone on Twitter and Reddit r/Morezone. But so much to come this week because it has been a mid-season update, so let's jump into the news. Okay, we have patch notes. The mid-season update has hit Warzone and Call of Duty, so we're going to take you through everything you need to know of this update. First of all, the big one, 200-player Warzone. Verdansk will now be able to hold up to 200 players. You can jump into this mode in Battle Royale quads. We also have a new contract, a supply run contract. Upon activation, you and your squad, if applicable, will be directed to a nearby buy station. Reach it within the time limit to get a discount on buy station purchases. This is the same discount you would get in a fire sale. Also now in the game, the spotter scope has finally arrived. A high-powered scope without the glint. This reusable scope allows you to scan the environment around you and mark enemies without being detected. Perfect if you just want to scout around. It's something you will now find in the game without having to worry about giving your position away. We also are going to have new weapons in the Gulag, semi-auto sniper rifles, and one where you just get fists and a throwing knife will now be the weapons you use to fight for survival. Some quality of life upgrades as well for Warzone in general. The gas mask now cracks when you're taking damage near or in the circle. A team wiped message now appears in the kill feed for your whole squad to see. The audio for the supply choppers is too loud, which now means it has been adjusted. So you can hear a lot of other things with communication and what is happening in Verdansk. And the after action report now shows cash earned and your placement. More changes coming to Warzone as well as the rest of the game. We have a new weapon, the Rytec AMR. It is a heavy-duty sniper rifle. Should be very powerful, but very heavy when running around with it. We have a new multiplayer map. Cheshire Park has now arrived in multiplayer. We have a new operator to go along with that. It is Rose. We are also going to have a gunfight tournament reward system, so there will be more of the gunfight tournaments that people love. Juggernaut Royale is also coming, so we will get to see that soon when it arrives. And last but not least, Team Defender is now a new multiplayer mode for the game. Last thing to talk about with the patch notes is going to be the weapon balancing. Now there is a lot that has changed, so I'll take you through it very, very quickly. The AX50 has increased damage range, HDR guaranteed one hit to lower torso at any range, Kar 98K gets a big boost with 3 separate buffs, increased ADS speed, small decrease to hipfire spread, and increased damage range. The Mark II carbine has faster movement speed and increased damage range. The Dragunov has increased ADS speed, 2 hit kill minimum, a gun recoil that returns to the center more, and a faster rate of fire. The FAL has added a close range damage shelf with a potential one-hit headshot in the main game. The AK-47 has increased aim down sight speed. The CR-56 AMAX has decreased damage range. The MP5 takes a big nerf this time around. Decreased damage range overall, decreased 10mm damage range, reduced long range damage to 10mm ammo, and a slight recoil increase to 10mm ammo. A really big nerf for that gun this time around. The Grau also receives a nerf this time around. It will have a damage range reduction, a slight increase to high frequency recoil, and reduced recoil compensation and decreased range on the Tempest 26.4 Archangel and the FSS 20.8 Nexus barrels. Huge nerfs for that gun, may start falling out of the meta. In competition, the MPAM Gauntlet was last night and was won by a team of FaZe Blue, Clutch Belt, Royal Eyes and Medicine, taking home the lion's share of the $50,000 prize pool. And that is the news this week. Wow, so much has changed in the world of Verdansk. But one thing that hasn't changed is the quality of our clips. Another great week, but this week, a few sneaky clips have made their way in, and I'm sure you'll be as entertained by them as I was. First up, we have Dexterity 93 with the Dead Silence trying to stay alive as his team gets pinched here. But fortunately, he keeps his cool, calm, and collected and manages to reach out for the three-piece. At number 4, we have an incredibly sneaky play. Turns out they are going to wait this one for an assassination. And they have been tailing them for a few minutes, managed to get that one, but that's not all. Teammate did the exact same thing on the other side of the toilet at the same time. The last play was sneaky, but this is a whole another level. This may be the sneakiest play in the history of Warzone. With no money and no guns, he sneaks in while the other team is distracted by the fire sale, buys his entire team in, and manages to get away with it to safety while all of his 4-man squad redeploys into Verdansk. Vietnamese has just returned from the Gulag to find his teammates in a lot of trouble. Manages to try and pick his teammate up, who in gratitude actually throws him an MP7, which immediately puts to work taking down the team that is attacking them. Gets 3 straight off the rip, but has run out of ammo, just starts beating the last one down, gets all 4 kills, and runs back to revive his teammate again. Our number 1 play this week. It's so late in the game, Jean-Louis doesn't have an awful lot of options, eventually has to take on the squad coming towards him, just throwing all the rounds down range, but there's one left, one escaping, decides to bash that one down, but he's now in the gas and has to run for his life. And can he make it out of this one alive? Still no ammo, doesn't matter, bashes another one down, and that is actually a Warzone win. 2 kills, no ammo, 1 clip. Well, there's our top 5 clips this week. And of course, if you do want to submit your clips for future weeks, make sure you get one over to the Morezone on Twitter or Reddit r/Morezone. A Twitch clip or a YouTube link will do just fine. And of course, if you have been watching the patch notes, you know that the Grau may have been nerfed. So you're asking yourselves, what gun should I use next? Fortunately, we caught up with BennyCentral, who has some advice on the matter in our Loadout highlight. Hello, Benny. Thank you for joining me here. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me. It seems a long time ago since you used to give me abuse about planting bombs on fences.
Well, hey, that's still valid, unfortunately. But let's move on now to talk about Warzone in your class. Now, you've actually given me something a little bit different this week. The Kilo 141. Let's just jump straight into it right now. Why do you like this gun, Benny?
I had to change it up because the Grau is just used by everyone. It is overpowered, as I think everyone knows by now. And also with like the upcoming weapon changes that are expected to come, which should probably include the Grau. I've been trying to find something that kind of plays in a similar play style so that you can just switch it over if the Grau's nerfs kind of knock it down the rankings a bit. So I found the Kilo 141, kind of did that. Higher fire rate than the Grau, same damage profile. And with this particular build, you can control the recoil really easily, so you can kind of get that laser beam effect.
All right, well, let's talk about the build then for anyone who kind of wants to try this gun out, right? Mm-hmm. There are some standard things that I think go on every single assault rifle, right? The monolithic suppressor, the Commando foregrip, and the 60-round mags. But let's talk about why this barrel.
So it's the barrel that increases damage range, bullet velocity, and hold on, what was the other? What was? I'm just trying to remember. It's the one with 3.
Probably recoil control. No, it's a longer barrel.
Yeah, it's a similar profile that every other barrel has. So like on the M4, for example, you've got the Corvus and the M16 barrel has the same damage profile, and you'll notice that is kind of because Warzone with an assault rifle, you're traditionally getting in those longer distance engagements.
Yeah.
So you want to be using those barrels to make sure your gun's performing best at those ranges and you're able to then pick up the kills, and because your secondary is normally going to be an SMG, which is going to then be able to shred people up close. So you want your assault rifle to be able to take down people quickly at a distance.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm guessing the same thing with the Candid Hybrid, right? Like, I've not really seen a lot of people run that side.
So I switched. So I was going to say, I switch between the two. I use the canted and the VLK. So the canted I actually really like because it's a 3.25 times magnification scope, which means that it still fits within the low zoom weapon category. So when you kind of go into your settings, you can adjust like kind of high zoom and low zoom weapons. So you then kind of maintain the same weapon profile with how the game mechanics work when you're using those scopes, so that you can I find it easier to hit targets consistently at a distance and be able to control the recoil when you're using a canted or a VLK, especially at those medium to long range fights. So that's kind of why I use that rather than the iron sights, because at those distances, it's got as clean an iron sight as the Grau, where you can clearly see everything going on. So it kind of means you can track, keep the recoil, pick up kills.
That makes sense. Like I said, I think people have got so used to running iron sights with the M4 and the Graus being so good that when you start looking at other assault rifles, you're like, well, actually, I'm going to need something here because it's just bad.
I found though, but people have started running like scopes and sights on the M4 as well. I think there's just a way in Warzone that you can really take advantage of those game mechanics where, you lose the aim down sight speed, but you don't have to be as quick in Warzone as you do in multiplayer. You can get away with those kind of fractions of a second, especially if your map knowledge and your positioning is good, and your overall game sense is better than your opponents. You can afford that kind of 0.1 second. If you're against pro players, no chance in hell. You need every millisecond you can get.
No, I fully agree. I fully agree. All right, let's talk about the other half of this then, because your class, obviously, this one is an overkill. I'm guessing you do the same thing as most people, overkill first and then jump onto the ghost later. But your overkill here is the very standard MP5. But there is one small difference. Everything's meta apart from the fact you seem to have swapped out a laser for a grip.
So
why?
I use the stipple grip tape. Now I've had this conversation before, so it was actually with Vic. So I originally had sleight of hand rather than the grip. Because you're in a building, just kind of when you're using the MP5, traditionally you're in a building, you're in a team's face, and when you're going for like kill records or things like that, you're playing like duo squads or whatever it is, you kind of, if you get caught out with no bullets in your gun, you get killed. But I kind of switched it out, and that quicker aim down sight and kind of aiming stability that you get with a grip really helps. And I kind of switch out. A lot of people have said that I should be using an attack laser though. So
I like the attack laser.
You could probably switch the two. They both kind of perform. I can't remember when I was looking at the exact things. I think it's like 1 frame difference between the two.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. Like I think it just feels better. Maybe it's just the difference here when you use attack laser. A lot of it's just mental. Like even I saw somebody the other day kind of cycling through MP5s. He found off a team he had taken, and he was trying to figure out which one felt the best to just kind of take away. But I don't know. It's interesting the way that ever so slightly people kind of change it up to get their personal preferences with the MP5, especially since it's their secondary, right? Like it's not a gun you're using the majority of the time.
I think the differences are also so much smaller because you are using it at a particular range. So those kind of like a lot of the time you won't notice the difference between the stippled or attack laser. They both perform very similarly, and it's like a frame or two difference. And as I mentioned earlier, unless you're playing against the very top players in the world, that extra frame or so isn't necessarily going to make the difference, because when everyone's snapping onto each other's heads and you're just kind of dropping as quickly and get no time to react, yes, makes a difference. But against most players in most situations you're going to come across in Warzone, I think both builds work, and it's just, as you said, whatever you prefer.
No, I fully agree. Let's talk quickly about your perks and the odd lethal and tactical then, because they're pretty meta themselves. Heartbeat and C4, can't beat them.
You can't. I want to run stuns. I do really want to run stuns, because it's like you see it at endgame. If you've got a stun grenade, you just put a stun in, and then you just kind of like go off, like change the angle so they can't turn, and you get the easiest kills ever, because no one runs battle hardened. No one. And it is quite overpowered. The downside is you've kind of got to sacrifice Ghost realistically, so you get restock. And C4s are meta, but they're not necessarily as powerful as they used to be in taking out vehicles, etc. Because now people are kind of wisening up to putting a trophy system on and kind of using that to kind of navigate the map a lot better. So even if you're doing that, see a car come in, you throw a C4, it's probably going to get taken out.
No, I agree. I think for me, there's just at the moment in the current meta, there's not really good, viable changes for it. The stun, maybe. I know some people try and change it out late game, especially because everybody's running Ghost. But yeah, it's just too powerful. And then the standard perks. Like double time is obviously for your speed. Overkill because you're getting 2 guns, and then amp because let's face it, you just need to switch things.
Yeah, like just being able to switch between an assault rifle and an SMG to suit whatever environment you're in. And also, it's a quick reload. Like, there's nothing quicker than just quickly switching to your MP5 if someone's right in your face, or switching to your assault rifle because you don't have time to get a reload off. And the amount of times that's like saved my life and helped me go on to win the game, because someone comes through a doorway, I've taken 2 people out of the window, and I'm like, I've got no bullets. Press Y, switch to your MP5, and just take them out instantly. Like, it gives you the most versatility compared to Battle Hardened, which is very situational.
Yeah.
And you kind of want to play the percentages. It's like anything in Warzone. Always play the percentages. What's going to give you the highest probability of coming out on a gunfight? Like, you never want to be in a 50-50 situation. So, all right, let's just move, get the high ground. All right, here, the most likely thing is I'm going to need to switch to a different gun. Make sure you've got amps, because I'm going to do that more often than using a stun, or getting stunned, should I say.
No, fully agree with that one. Like I said, it's one of these things in Warzone, you have to kind of prepare yourself in the best way you know how. Let's move on then. Talk about preparation. Benny, where are you dropping in Verdansk?
Oh, so I'm kind of that stereotypical for the high kill games, right? There's a stereotypical kind of 3 areas I like to go, right? Silos, hangars at airport, and then also Superstore. Like, those are kind of my 3 go-to. So if I'm playing a more conservative game, so like if you're playing in a competition, a lot of the times I'll drop silos, because you have the ability to gear up and be able to fight. Like, you'll go hangars, which is high, like has a higher loot spawn, so there's more kind of like, it's more what's concentrated.
Yeah,
like there's a higher amount of loot to grabs. But if people are coming there, I'll overshoot and go to silos and land on top silos, and you can gear up, and then you can either, depending on what you want to do, you can then push to electrics to then go to Superstore, or you can push back across towards hangars, and then like police department and stuff like that. So I feel like that area gives you the most versatility in changing the game on how people have dropped, and being able to read the situation depending on what contracts are available, and so on.
No, I agree. I think I don't really drop silos a lot myself, but the other 2, 100%. It's about that. It's about that middle of the map area. It's just so good for people who like to get in gunfights. I think, you know, everybody kind of drops there and goes, you know what, I'm going to have gunfights through the game anyway. We might as well start off and see if I can get a good start. It's going to push through.
100%. It's also being able to then, as I said, it goes down to versatility, because it depends on where the circle goes as well. So being there gives you the ability to position yourself in a lot more different areas and be able to move around the map, to be able to pick up more kills, to be able to outmaneuver opponents. Because if you spawn in like Quarry, for example, like the amount of places that you can go are very, very small. So if someone's gatekeeping you, they can just kind of move left and right, and there's nothing you can do. You have to just fight them, and they'll probably have map position on you, which once again goes down to like percentages and probability that you're more likely to get killed. Down in Superstore and like hangars and silos, that sort of area, yes, there's normally a lot more players, but you have a lot more options available to you to reposition and get your advantage, which if you're a good player, you can really take advantage of.
No, I fully agree. I fully agree. Well, speaking of good players, Benny, what are your top tips for Warzone for the people watching?
Don't shoot too early. This is the thing. This is the thing that frustrates me so much. And I don't know if you experience this, but you know when someone sees someone and they just start shooting, and I'm like, you're not going to pick that down up. They're now going to know where you are. Their entire team is going to turn, and you've given yourself a 50-50 gunfight, right? While if you just take that extra few seconds, reposition so that you don't blow your own position, and you then know you can guarantee the down, do that. Like, they're like, if they're running, they might turn around. Then you have to open up. However, open up at the time that you've got the biggest advantage. I think that's one of the big things that I don't see enough people do, is they'll just run around the map and just kind of see someone start shooting. You blow your position. You don't just attract that team, you also attract nearby teams as well, increasing your chance to get third party. If you want to make fights as short as possible, so make sure you've got in a position like behind the opponent where you've got clear sight, they don't have anywhere to dive into cover, and you can just take them down with your Grau or your Kilo or whatever you're using.
No, I agree with that. I think a lot of people overestimate sometimes the power of the Grau and just start opening up, thinking, oh, I can drop him fast. And realistically, with the movement on this game, if they're somewhat competent and there's any cover nearby, they're just going to dive for it.
Yeah.
And if you don't get the down, then you're in serious trouble because they are going to pivot to switch and get to you. But no, I think that's a great tip. I think a lot of people kind of need to learn a little bit of patience. Even the fast-paced players. We're all running around the map at full speed, but I think another person said it great. You're not as good as maybe some streamers. You gotta play a little bit more tactically. But
you've got to it's changing your tempo to the situation you're in. Like sometimes you just have to drop your tempo down, right? Which is against your nature. But you might be in a position where you can't read what's going on. You don't know where people are. And if you don't know the situation, you need to kind of assess it properly, and whether that's getting a couple downs and then pushing it and kind of being quite systematic with it. Don't just blindly rush at an opponent, which is what I see a lot of people do. And then you're like, oh, how's he kill me there? And it's just like, it's because he was sat on the rooftop that entire time. So just change tempo, don't rush too much. And also another little tip, take advantage of the compass on the top. It's something that a lot of people don't do. Most people, when they're checking for red dots and stuff on the minimap, they're looking at the minimap and then they're having to guess roughly from the minimap where they are in front. What you can do is you can use the minimap and the compass together to line them up so you know they're in front of you, because the compass will give you an exact kind of line from the red, and the red dots will appear on that compass more. So because Warzone is such a big map, you can then use, and it also goes out of the region of the minimap as well. So you can get people's direction a lot easier. So you can line it up and then snap onto the target.
Good tip, I think. Good tip. All right, Benny. Well, thank you so much for joining me here and sharing your Warzone knowledge. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been fun.
It has been. All right, well, I hope to catch up with you again soon, Benny. Thank you very much.
All right, see you later.
Cheers. Well, there you go. Great catching up with Benny, as always. Been a long time friend of mine, and I'm sure we'll end up getting some games together soon. But from one gun that may be just off the meta to our actual off the meta segment, this week we end up taking a look at the Uzi. This week in Off the Meta, we are going to be taking a look at the Uzi and whether or not it is viable in Warzone and if you should run it. As you can see here, I have a beautiful glacial polish version, and I have outkitted it the way I think you should probably run it. You've got a Carbine Pro, a monolithic suppressor, a tac laser, a Merc foregrip, and 50-round mags. This basically gives you a great combination of damage, range, recoil reduction, and the bullets you need. I advise giving it a go. It worked out pretty well for me. It was interesting to start running the Uzi in Warzone, considering that I have seen it slightly uptick in the CDL and some pro players running it. So my immediate thought was, well, if it can work in a competitive setting, should it work in Warzone? Now, the answer actually ended up surprising me, because this gun was better than I thought it would be. It has some really great things going for it. The damage over range is still pretty good, the rate of fire is very good, the recoil control, especially with the attachments that I've recommended and put in the start of this video, it is something you can definitely use and will be quite viable. Now, with the patch notes and the updates coming to the MP5, this is going to be a viable alternative, taking its place amongst the ranks of things like the MP7 and the Fennec for guns that you could possibly use. The benefits of this gun, I think, is that it kind of feels more like a mini AR than it does a full-fledged SMG, but you still get the benefits of having, the speed, the maneuverability, and the rate of fire. It's something I can actually recommend using. I certainly think people should give it a go. My only concerns with this weapons are it doesn't do everything as well as some other guns do. The Fennec is probably closer up close and personal. The MP5 is as well, and MP5 has a lot of the same things the Uzi has, which is probably why it's so good. The big difference is that the MP7 is going to be a better Uzi than the Uzi, unfortunately, just because of its recoil control going forward. But if you do choose to run an Uzi on this game, you're not going to be disappointed. If you really enjoy running that weapon and making sure you actually, want to try something a little bit different and have that kind of control, then the Uzi is the gun for you. So that was the Uzi. Do you run it in Warzone? Let me know. I'm always curious to find out what other people are running. As you can see, I actually quite like it, and I think I may end up running it in future, especially with the changes that have come about. But one thing that hasn't changed, our location we are going this week. It's time to take a look at Boneyard. It's time to go to Boneyard. An interesting drop because usually when I talk about map locations, I talk about the ease of rotation and how central they are is how much I prefer them. Boneyard is the exception in this case. Boneyard is a drop I will frequently go to if it is the first drop on the way, or if I just fancy a little bit of a change. Maybe I've had a bad time at hangars recently, I'll go to Boneyard. One of the main reasons for this is obviously the fact that Scrapyard, the old Call of Duty map that is a fan favorite, is located here. I know my way around it. It's a lot of fun to come here as well and kind of relive those memories, and it plays pretty well. One of the best things I can say about Boneyard and Scrapyard itself is the lack of verticality means that early game especially, you're not going to be too worried about people camping up on roofs and not really having an opportunity to fight back. And of course, you know, the map does play ever so slightly different compared to the multiplayer map because you can get outside of it, so don't think too much of it as the multiplayer map in terms of choke points. And speaking of choke points, this is a place where I recommend you kind of staying with your team. It's very easy on this one, considering how big it is to go off and explore, but all those broken plains, all the way that the topography of this area is, means that it's very easy for you to get broken up with. There's a lot of cover, it's kind of tunnel-like, you can feel really claustrophobic in it, and very easily not be able to support your teammates all stay alive in gunfights. Saying that though, it is an awful lot of fun to go to, so don't let that put you off at all, because for me, I enjoy going here for what I like to call, you know, a light fight. There's usually a few teams around this area. There's lots to loot. You can get your loadout in. There are vehicles here. There are contracts. There are buy stations. It's a very, very good location if you just want to go somewhere different from the norm, but also really familiar, and you should know what you're doing here. It's a great location. It is one of my favorite locations in Verdansk. 100% recommend it. I hope you enjoyed as well. But that's kind of been a quick overview of Boneyard and Scrapyard to a lesser degree. I hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening. If you have nostalgia and like going to Scrapyard, well, I agree with you. It is a great place to go myself. But that is everything we have for the episode this week. I hope you have enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and check out our Twitter at the Morezone and Reddit r/Morezone. We'll have details of an upcoming giveaway for next week's show during the week, so make sure you tune into those, otherwise you might miss it. But thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. One shot, now the future is yours.